Let's get ready for our second keynote speaker. We all know her very well. She has a master's degree in counseling psychology and a PhD in neuroscience. She has taught in psychology, human development, and biology. She currently teaches at California State University, Long Beach, and writes for Psychology Today. I thought she wanted to. She is a four-time TEDx speaker and public speaker. Please put your hands together for none other than our chair for today, Dr. Marwa Azab. And please take your seats. This is going to be a great lecture and a presentation.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh again. May peace be upon all of you. They didn't know what to do with people after lunch when they have a food coma. So they said, you know what, let's put the boring scientists to speak until they wake up again. I am the boring scientist, okay? Okay, so my topic today is stress and stress management. We're gonna define what stress is. We're gonna talk about stress management. And then by the end of the presentation, we're actually going to get to do stress management together as a group. Okay. So at this point, you don't have to shout out your number or anything like that, but it would be fun if you do. I want you to rate your stress level on a number from 0 to 10. 0 means you're not alive and you're not stressed. 1 to 3 means that you're just mildly stressed. You're not even aware of any kind of tension. You're just at balance, at equilibrium. And then moderate will be between 4 and 6. Stress is kind of on your mind. Maybe you're a little bit, you can't sit on your seat. Maybe you didn't sleep well last night. You're having headaches. And then 8 to 9 would kind of be like, if I said, you know, dear sister, you're going to finish my presentation, get up on stage and finish what I have to say. That kind of stress, okay? So you're very stressed out. Think of that number and maybe use like a memo or kind of notebook on your phone or whatever gadget or a paper and pen and write down that number. Or you can keep it in mind, which I won't be able to remember my name at the end of the talk, but if you can remember the number, then that's great. So we want to define what is stress. And a general definition for stress is anything that moves you from your balance point where you're comfortable is considered a stressor. Now, it's not the event itself, it's not the situation, it's not the person that's going to determine how your body is going to react to the stressor, but it's your reaction that will determine how actually your body will respond to the stressor. So, which means that it's your response to the stressor, your body, your biology, the chemicals released, your mind, all of that, your health is under your control because you control your reaction to the stressor. So that's a very important thing to keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is that stress can be good or it can be bad. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. And that people have different capacities for handling stress. So everybody in this room has different genes. Everybody in this room has had like different childhoods. Some of our genetics, you come into the world and it just makes you a person that has a very low threshold where you get stressed by a lot of things very easily. So maybe something that the person next to you sees as very neutral, like not stressful at all, can make you extremely stressed and maybe not even able to focus or drive. And vice versa. Same thing. We don't know here, we don't have a history of every person in the room. But whether you had a trauma early on in your life during your childhood, what kind of childhood you have, will also determine how sensitive you are to stress. So because I'm pretty confident that nobody in this room has something to read our DNA, and nobody in this room has a history of how we all grew up, we should never make judgment about people and say, well, if I can handle this and this and this and that, what is she complaining about? We don't know what genetic predisposition she has, if she's had a trauma or not, what kind of life she has. Now, I want to begin. We don't want to be stressed because we want to be happy. okay? So I'm gonna give you a very, an easy question, if you will. Which group of people do you think are happier? Let's begin with the easy questions. I'll save the difficult questions for later. Somebody who won the lottery ticket or a paraplegic who's paralyzed from the waist down? Are happier? Don't be the devil's advocates. So maybe in your mind, you were thinking this, that paraplegics are gonna be less happy than someone who just won the ticket. They actually did this study. And you know what they found? They're both equally happy. Which means, back to the point that reaction is up to you. And maximize on that point that reaction to the stressor is up to you what you do with that. And we'll deal with that a little bit towards the end of the talk when we talk about stress management. Now, all of us have different stressors. And if I were to take everybody's stressors and kind of organize them loosely in 3 different baskets, I'd probably have sort of stressors that have to do with relationships. Maybe you're stressed in terms of your relationship with your teenager, that is the major stress in your life. Or you're stressed because you have a child who has a learning disability, and that is the major stress in your life. Or you're stressed because you have a poor relationship with your spouse, and that is the major stressor in your life. It doesn't mean that other relationships are not going to bring certain daily stressors. They will. But the number one stressor is maybe one of those. Or maybe your stressor, your main stressor, has to do with your relationship with yourself. Means that, are you always hearing yourself talking negative to yourself? Are you critical of yourself? You could have done this better. You should have, you could have, you would have. Like some of the things that we tell ourselves, we would never tell a friend. We would never tell a friend, because if we tell them, they're either gonna slap us in the face or think we're crazy or leave that relationship. But we dare tell it to ourselves. So think about it if you're that kind of person. Again, you don't have to put your hand up or anything. Put it in your notes that, you know what, for me, that is the main stressor in my life. I'm so hard on myself. Some people easily fall in that category because of genetic predispositions. They happen to be highly sensitive people. And there's certain genes that predispose you to be very sensitive to these things. Okay, and I did a whole talk on this. You can check it out online if you suspect that you're a highly sensitive person. Or if you had certain kind of childhoods, then, this is something to think about. The other category of stress comes from your physiological needs not being met. Maybe you have the kind of work schedule that doesn't allow you to have sufficient numbers of hours, for sleep. That is a stressor on our body. In fact, one of the ways they torture people is to deprive them of sleep. Except we do that to ourselves. In fact, we brag about it. You're like, you know how many hours of sleep I had? I had 5. And then another person, you know how many I had? I had 4. And then someone says, you know what, I didn't have any sleep at all. Oh, really? Right? And we do that. But that's actually devastating. It actually shortens your life. It's like we have certain moments of waking, hours that you have, and if you spend it too fast by staying up for all of these extra hours, they're gone. If your hormones are imbalanced, that can pose a stressor. And if you have that problem, you know exactly what I mean. And of course, under this category too, might be either a physical illness, like chronic pain, chronic back pain, for example, that really compromises, any chronic pain really compromises the quality of life. But in addition, any mental disorder or psychological disorder will also weigh in this, and that may be the number one stressor in your life. So to yourself, think about, well, which one is the number one stressor for myself? How do you know if you're stressed? Because people want to look like they have it together, like I'm not stressed. It's like easy being upstage and it's not a problem at all. Of course it's not. It is a problem, and of course I'm stressed, and of course I'm nervous. And I have no problem admitting that because I'm normal. Some people, though, struggle with knowing when are they stressed. So then they keep moving and then they burn out. And I've known students, I've known adults, well, all of a sudden, This A student drops all his courses and is failing every course. And that's it. He can't even go one more. Okay, you have like 1 week to finish the semester. I can't. Or somebody who's like will start taking days off and they can't work anymore. They're burnt out. It's very difficult to reverse when you're in that burnout stage. And that's why it's so important to recognize the symptoms for stress for you. Because symptoms for stress is different for different people. For some people, their stress is emotional. When they're stressed, they're very irritable. You say good morning to them and you're like, how dare you say good morning? What is wrong with you? And they're just very irritable and they're very angry. And that's how they carry their stress. Some people, they just like hide under their shell, they don't see people, and they become very sad. And that's how they carry their stress. And then some people carry their stress physically, where they start to actually develop physical, serious illnesses, like diabetes too. And some people have what we call cognitive symptoms. So I don't know if this ever happened to you, but that certainly happens to me when I'm stressed. They get cloudy in their thinking, they're indecisive, they can't make good decisions, they're clumsy. So if I fall off the stage, nobody laughs. They get clumsy, they make silly mistakes, they forget how to get home. They've been driving that way for 10 years and then they get lost going home. You know who you are, right? So that's a symptom of stress. When that happens to you, you're like, no, that's not normal. You're probably stressed. And then the last one is behavior, where then your behaviors start to be faux pas and like socially unacceptable. And it's like, did I really do that? Did I really say that? And of course, there's a gray area where all of them interact. So your symptoms might be a compilation of all of them or some of them. Only you know for yourself, but you have to come up with a collage of what are your stress symptoms for you. That might be a very different picture than for me. So wouldn't this talk be so much better if instead of saying stress and stress management, why do I have to manage my stress? Why can't I just eliminate my stress, right? Like imagine if this talk is stress elimination. There would be people lined up at the door, for sure, and I probably would ask for money and be rich. But here's why I can't do that. Because actually, you need stress. You need a healthy dose of stress to function. There's a positive aspect, like the angel on the left, and then, not a so positive aspect, on the right, where when you are stressed, it gives you confidence that you're able to tolerate, that you're able to handle the situation. And it's actually a type of motivation, that if you don't have this motivation, you won't move off the couch. The students that do the worst in the classes that I teach in the psych departments, are the ones that are like, I remember this dude in my class. How did you do? It was good, right? And like he's completely not stressed about the test. And he's completely not stressed even before the test. That's not a good sign because he failed the test. I think he got 3 out of 26, right? You do need a healthy dose of stress to get you moving. And of course, too much can get you paralyzed again. And we'll go through that in the next slide. And then too much stress, then you're really back again to being not paralyzed, to not being able to think well, to truncating your creativity, as in this slide. Now, this inverted U is going to be different for all of us. It might be deeper for some people. It might be taller for some people. It might be shifted on the right, meaning that some people need a lot more stress to get going than others. It might be shifted on the left, meaning that some people need just a little bit of stress and they can go. But the point is, all of us need a certain amount of stress. What that amount is, you calculate that X. When you have too little stress, all the way on the left, you actually get bored. And that happens to a lot of our kids and teenagers in schools, is that they are under-stressed. Some of them. So they're under-challenged, so they're not creative, they're bored, and they start to get into trouble. Some of the kids who get in trouble in class are actually the most gifted students because they're not challenged enough. And then all the way on the right, you have then the opposite problem of you feeling overwhelmed, you can't handle the situation, you feel like you stress yourself so thin that there's now holes, like Swiss cheese. So that's not good either, because then what happens is that you can burn out, you can get overwhelmed, you can't make good decisions, you're not creative. You cannot be creative if you're excessively stressed. So of course the happy medium is always the medium. That's when you are in control. Like you feel like this is stressful, But you know what? I've done this enough times to know that I can manage. That even if I'm up here on stage and I mess up and I forget all my slides, I hope that doesn't happen, that I'm able to manage because I've done this enough times. So yes, there's stress. But at the same time, you have enough confidence to say, I've done this enough times and it's worked the last 100 times. It's highly unlikely that this 101 time, it's not gonna work. And again, you draw this for yourself on the paper, to the right, to the left, how high, how tall, depends on you. So that takes us to, now a stressor happened, and you perceive it as a stress. Now, to our body, a stressor is something like this. Like our body was engineered for the stress response to respond to this situation. You are in a forest, it's dark, and there's a big, hairy thing that's chasing you. So then you get scared, your body starts to be stressed out and releases all of that stuff. And then you realize, thank God, it's just my spouse. Maybe you'll still keep running, I'm not sure. Okay, but when that happens though, a very predictable stress response happens in all of us. Muslim, non-Muslim, white, black, Latino, wherever you are, the stress response is the same. And that is, your body goes through A, B, C, D, exactly what it needs to do. And that effect is in all your internal organs, including your brain. So what happens when the stress is very short-lived and is acute, because you're actually prepared, we're all prepared extremely well to deal with very short stressors. Then what happens, your mind gets sharper. So actually your memory gets better and your senses get sharper. Why? Because if there's something rattling in the grass, you want to hear it quickly so you can react. That's amazing. That's not where it goes bad. After that is where things get a little bit tough. So the second stage of this is the part where then your body starts to release this nasty hormone chemical in your body called cortisol. That's your stress hormone. There's nothing wrong if it's, again, a short-lived situation. It equips you to deal fast. But it turns off certain things like your immune system. But what if actually there's no bear chasing you? In fact, you're sitting on that chair right now. You're not running from anybody. What are you going to do with that energy? What are you going to do with that cortisol? That's when you start to have, your immune system is off, so you get sick all the time. You're like, I don't know what's happening. The last 3 months, I got 3 colds. That is what's happening. When you're gaining weight and you have actually that's a scientific term, and you have an apple shape, an apple shape instead of a pear shape, where your waist becomes almost the same size on your hips. Why is that scientific? Because cortisol will, specifically that stress hormone, is gonna collect all your fat by your waist. So the bigger your waist is very bad news. So there's nothing, I think there's nothing wrong with gaining weight, but if you're gaining all the weight around your waist, that is a signal that you should pay attention. What is going on? Right? And of course, it turns off things like the reproductive system. And that's why a lot of people, when they're infertile for a long time and they start to adopt, they have their first baby because they're not stressed anymore. There's nothing wrong with them, but it's stress that's turning off the reproductive. Why would your system want to have babies if you're being chased by a bear? That's what your system knows. It doesn't think that we're not so smart, that we're sitting on the chair, and all it is we're having a thought that's stressful. That thought that's stressful, or that psychological damage or pain, is the same as a bear that's chasing me in the dark. The same kind of thing to my stress response. So it's really bad when this goes on unnecessarily. And I have to say that part, because then when I talk about stress management and say yoga, people are like, get out of town. Who has time for that? Who wants to do this in nature? But the point is to realize that stress is serious business. And when you don't realize, it starts to whisper to you, right? Like, here is headaches. You're getting aches over your body. How many times have you gone to the doctor and you say, I'm not feeling well. I have aches all over my body. Where's the pain? I don't know. How long has it been lasting? I don't know. Where is it? I don't know. Right? Because your body's trying to tell you something. And then when you don't listen to the whispers, it screams. Diabetes too. Premature death. Strokes, heart attacks. Because cortisol does that. Certain kind of chemicals, when they're released, they make our blood thick. So then, of course, we have the fat and the sugar. It sticks to it like Velcro. So it narrows your vessels. There you go. No blood to the brain. You have a stroke. No blood to the heart. You have a heart attack. Congrats and no sleep at nighttime. So, again, we are very well prepared for a short-lived stressor to happen. We have all the biological machinery to deal with that, all the necessary psychological machinery to deal with that. We are not prepared for the kind of stress that's new to modern day. Social stress, psychological stress. That's a little bit new for our system to deal with. Because the other stressor I'm talking about, all of these hormones, all of these chemicals are washed from your body 30 to 90 seconds. Within a minute and a half, all of that is cleared from your body. But if you're like sitting there and you're saying, oh, I should have, I could have, I would have, I was really bad in this, then instead of 90 seconds, it might be 90 years. That becomes problematic. So this type of stressor is the type of stressor we want to control. And as I said earlier, happiness, stress, a lot of it is still in our hands, that we can change our perception to things, that we can manage. We shouldn't eliminate. And probably the number one stressor for most of us, the bear that's chasing you, is time. How many people feel like the day never has enough hours in the day to finish what you need to finish? Pretty much everybody, right? Unless you're a type B personality where like the house is on fire and you're like, it'll be okay, fire department will get in time. That's what we pay taxes for, right? The house, yeah. Alhamdulillah, both me and my husband are type A, so we get along, alhamdulillah. Because I would have a big problem with that. I would put the person on fire. But anyhow, that's an aside thing. I'm dealing with that. Anyhow, so I really like this quote, right? And it puts you in power. It puts stress as the ignorant state. And that quote says, stress is an ignorant state. It believes that everything is an emergency. That thought that you have about yourself, that you're not good enough, you're not worthy, that's an emergency. And it will keep doing that in a predictable manner. So, should we take stress seriously? I mean, we can't die from stress. Actually, we can. Because they've done these exact studies where there is ways to look at the biological age of a cell, and they looked at that, and you know how much stress can shave off your life? Of course, everything is in the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but I can also sit there and say, you know what, I'm not gonna eat, because if it's meant for me to eat, then food will come to me and go in my mouth and nourish me, right? Take a guess about how many years does it age you, stress? 20 years? We should talk after. That's an exaggeration. Sorry about that. 9 to 17 years. Almost 2 decades off. That's enough time to see your kids graduate, maybe get married, right? That's enough time to do a lot of things. Stress is serious business, and lack of management. We do such a good job with hiring a financial advisor to manage our wealth, but we know from research that money buys happiness. I'm not going to lie to you. And my husband is sitting there. It's my birthday, so I want to make that point very clear. Money buys happiness, okay? But up to a certain limit. That they found that when people make just enough to survive, to make enough for their basic needs and to be comfortable, beyond that amount, that it doesn't add anything to your happiness, that there is no relationship with happiness. So we spend a lot of money and time managing that, and we don't manage our stress that adds value and quality to our longevity. They did this study in men who are alcoholic, not alcoholic, but workaholic, different study, who are workaholic, work a lot of times, and their chances of diabetes too was how much higher? 45%. That's not a number to ignore. Because if you know someone with diabetes, or if you have diabetes, sure, we did a good job in terms of making people with chronic illness live for a long time, but it's not a good way to live. And certainly not in an individualistic society. Let's get real here. So that brings me now to stress management. Now I can be fluffy and you can believe me, because if I started here, nobody would believe me. Stress management is not a luxury. It is mandatory for you. If you want to be better to everybody that you love, you have to manage your stress. We mentioned earlier patience with parenting. How do I be more patient with parenting? When you take time away from your kids, you come back as a better parent. I'm going to say that again. When you leave your kids and take time away from your kids, you come back a better parent. You're able to do patience. But what's the use if you're 24 hours, but you're actually the cause of the trauma? Because let's be real with ourselves, that's sometimes the case. So some of these stress management techniques, and I'm going to try to squeeze one before we end, yoga. Right? And there is, all of this has been supported by research. So this is not stuff I pulled from like drphil.com. Yoga is really good. Meditation, there's different kind of meditations that you can do. Nature, I love nature. It's so soothing for me. Time management. Sometimes you begin with the day and you have a list, and you know deep down inside it's impossible to get this done in 24 years. But you're like, somehow it's going to get done, right? And then it doesn't get done. And you're stressed over how this didn't get done, especially if you're a type A personality and you're a perfectionist, because you should have done more. Right? This is some of my stress management activities that I like to do. I love nature. I love hikes. And I force my family and torture. That's the trauma they go under. I take them to hikes, including my 7-year-old. So we went to Sedona in Arizona. And I took my 7-year-old to all of these trails. One of them was very dangerous. I should have looked it up. And if I did, I would never have gone. But anyhow, I told my son, if you're going to be a 13-year-old goofy boy, you're on your own. Because I won't be able to save you. It's pretty deep down there. I have a 7-year-old. We can't both even walk next to each other. You're on your own. I guess just God has it for you that you don't live that long. It's up to you. I like to bake because baking is a calculating recipe and you get something out of it. So I and then I can take my anger out on that. And of course, I like hikes and nature. Okay, so now I have some time. So can we dim the lights a little bit? And in the back, I don't want to deprive, oh, you're going to film this. In the back, I don't want to deprive anybody from the opportunity to experience this. I'm not going to have you stand up or anything like that. Now, what I'm going to say right now might sound extremely silly to you. Do it anyways. Okay? And a lot of these things will sound very silly at the beginning until you get into the practice of doing this. You're supposed to do stress management on a regular basis before the stressor. You don't wait till the stressor to do this, because some irreversible damage can happen. I'm going to explain the instructions, and then I'm going to ask you, after I explain the instructions, to close your eyes so we can do it together. The number one thing I want to teach you first, which a lot of us do wrong, is how to breathe correctly. I remember once being in a yoga class, and a person was breathing like they were going to die. They thought that was healthy breathing. Other than being disruptive to other people, that was a problem. So what you want to do is you want to treat your stomach like a balloon. You're going to have one hand on your stomach and one hand on your chest. So the stomach is the balloon. A lot of times what we do it vice versa. We inflate our chest. So you see the chest going up and we think we're doing good breathing, deep breathing. No. You want to fill the balloon in your stomach. You're going to breathe through your nose, breathe out through your mouth. So you want to have a face like, what do they call it, duck face for a selfie? Right? That's how you're going to breathe out. No, we're all going to close our eyes. We have to all do this. So we're going to breathe in from our nose, feeling the stomach inflate. And then I'm going to count. And then we're going to breathe out through our mouth where we feel it deflate. We're going to do that a couple of times. And then if time is on my side, we'll do one more. Are we ready? Okay. So I'm going to ask everyone to close their eyes, please. Okay. Hand on the balloon in your stomach. If your shoulders are up and tense, please put them down. You're going to breathe in through your nose, inflating that stomach. 1, relax. 2, relax. 3, relax. Now you're going to slowly breathe out from your mouth on the count of 3. 1, relax. 2, relax. 3, relax. If I can ask you to open your eyes, come back to the room. If you need a little more time to close your eyes, that's fine, to come back. So you can do this. You're supposed to do this, take this a few more times. But in the interest of time, I just want to teach you that, and then we can move on. You can do this when you're driving, obviously with your eyes open. Otherwise, don't drive in Huntington Beach where I live. I'll call you out on it. Okay? The other technique I'm going to teach you, do I have 1 minute? I don't have any, I have 1 minute, okay. One more technique that's also very easy, okay? What I want you to do is I want you to sit like this, hugging your face. So I want you to imagine that you are the cutest baby, you have chubby cheeks. I want you to hug your face that same way. Just don't pinch your cheeks, not yet anyways. Then I want you to get your pinky, or if you're comfortable with another finger, that's fine, and you want to close one nostril and leave one open. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask you to breathe in from that nostril, and then I'm gonna instruct you to switch, close that nostril, and then breathe out from the other nostril, okay? Can we do that together? All right. So please close your right nostril with your finger, no, not too much pressure. Breathe in from the left nostril. 1, 2, 3. Hold it. Cover the left nostril. Slowly breathe out from the right nostril. Thank you so much. You have been amazing. Thank you for doing the exercises with me. It's been a pleasure being up here.
Can you hear me? We're all gonna sing happy birthday. She deserved it, right, Dr. Marwa? Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
Many more. Happy birthday, Dr. Marwa. Amazing speech.
Happy birthday, Dr. Mara. And thank you for the great, wonderful presentation that we just experienced and we just were enlightened with. To move on, let's bring in our next, not speaker, but our spoken word contestant who we had chosen from other spoken word contestants that did fill in and submitted their applications. So please put your hands together and let's welcome Mr. Fazil Chauhan. Come on this side, Mr. Chauhan. Come on this side, come on this side. Yep. How would you like it? Do you know how long you been?
It's like 6 months.
Okay, go.
Assalamu alaikum. Just wanted to give a little background. The topic we were asked to write about was happiness. It's a complicated topic, but you heard some of the speakers talk about it. I'm going to read a poem, but you know, a lot of the speakers here, like Dr. Fazaga, you could say, have already said a lot of really poetic and beautiful things. Thanks for access, for letting me be here. It's an honor to be here. So this poem is called Giving Joy, Getting Happy. I was hungry, I was empty, so I searched for happiness on TV and in Hollywood, but they told me to sell my soul and to shave my beard. There, it's about what's in fashion today and how you look, about selling brand names just like drugs to get us hooked. They value the superficial and the cosmetic. If I share wisdom and truth, they call me a fanatic. From Orange County to the valley to downtown, mountains divide white, black, and brown. But that won't keep me down. But that won't keep me down as long as my faith is sound. I stand strong. I stand strong on solid ground. And thankful because the Creator's blessings abound. Hopeful that the warmongers will be found guilty because what goes around comes around. What comes around goes around. Meanwhile, I slept with my iPhone, but I lost human connectivity. With all that gadgetry, it didn't make me happy. I got 1,000 friends on Facebook, but I was still lonely, living in solitary. Wanting more likes, shares, views, and followers, I was still hungry. I was greedy and empty, because really, none of that could make me truly happy. I'm not happy when I'm alienated and villainized. I'm happy I got good friends on my side. Not happy that we are divided and ruled. Happy when Muslims play together and stop fighting like fools. Not happy when the news propaganda attacks Muslims and blacks. Happy when tyrants are overthrown and people get their power back. Not happy to see the apartheid system of salaries based on nationalities in Saudi Arabia. Happy to see an interracial couple in California. Not happy when a weak person is laughed at or mocked. Happy to be tickled by Trevor Noah and Chris Rock. But frankly, what is the pursuit of happiness anyway? Is it fantasizing that I'll be happy when I have $1 million, when I stuff myself full of more stuff, when I drive a luxury car, when I buy a mansion, when I'm surrounded by beautiful women, then I'll be happy? When I get degrees and commendations, when I become successful and famous, then I'll be happy? But chasing all those external things does not make me happy for long, honestly. So I had to lower my criteria for being happy. If I make the best of the way things are today and just be easily pleased, because nobody gave me a guarantee that I'll live a life of luxury, that everything will be easy, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So I have to appreciate the little things in life and be easily satisfied, to feel contentment and have an attitude of gratitude, like being happy about my glass half full, but not happy about injustice. Being happy about God's plan, but not happy about my character defects. Though life can be hard and a struggle, facing traumas and heavy burdens, there's ups and downs and hurdles. Even marriage is a roller coaster. Your life is not about escape either. You can't just hit the eject button, because life is short. And if we make it just about entertainment and fantasies, then we are only living on a superficial level. And honestly, it still leaves me hungry, greedy, and empty. But life is meaningful when it's about serving a higher purpose while having fun. And I can't expect other people to make me live happily ever after. It's not a fairy tale. Life ain't fair. They say, thou shalt not fear. La tahzanu. Fala khawfun alayhim walahum yasanun. So I have to grab the steering wheel. I have to drive the bus of my destiny and bring joy to humanity if I truly want to be happy. To get something of value, what am I willing to give? To get something of value, what am I willing to give? What is the price of sacrifice? For example, a big gift I can give to the world is to heal myself. Inside my own self, I have to feel serenity and tranquility and then share that positivity, like being happy to be born in my parents' home, to be honored by the guidance of good teachers I have known, to be happy, to play with kids, to laugh, and to be funny, to be with people who have integrity. So what really makes me happy is when I feel I'm loved and valued, or when I'm accepted unconditionally, and when I'm able to make a positive difference in the world or to help my family. It's when I make someone else happy. If I make someone else happy, if I make it about them instead of about me, then I feel happy. When I focus on giving instead of getting, then I'm truly happy. When I focus on giving instead of getting, then I'm truly happy.
Mr. Chauhan, we have a little gift card for you, so this is for you. Thank you for the wonderful piece of your spoken word. Alrighty, folks, we're almost there, so please stay awake, unless I have to ask everyone to get up and start jogging a little, start doing other exercises as we go through. So now, before we go on to our concluding talk, I'd like to let you guys know that if you look at your booklet, we have surveys, and please help us fill it out. It should be on the right-hand side of the pamphlets if you take a look at it, or on the left. It's in one of those. Fill them out. It helps us. It gives us a better sense of what did you guys like, what didn't you guys like, and this will help us in the years to go when we have other events as well. But to do that, I want to bring up our our last speaker for the day to do the concluding talk. So she is a marriage family therapist and a certified domestic violence counselor. She's currently teaching at Bayan Claremont on spirituality, gender, and family issues in working with children and adults in a private practice in Irvine. She is the owner of Mission Viejo Montessori and the executive director of the Brain Balance Achievement Center as well in Lake Forest. So please put your hands together and please give a warm welcoming to Dr. Dr. Mitra Aziz Salim.
I'm sorry? Okay. Assalamu alaikum. I'll give them a few minutes to get my PowerPoint up. I would like to first thank Access for inviting me to be here today, and thank Dr. Marwa, the chair of our event, and Wali for organizing this wonderful gathering. As an event planner, organizer previously, I know how much time and effort it takes, so I really think that we need to give our gratitude and graciousness to the organizers and the organization Access for having these kinds of events available to our community. So thank you very much for putting on this event. So when he was describing me, it was interesting. My topic today is when do we know it's time to seek professional help? I know you guys have gained many access to many workshops today and learned a lot about mental health, parenting, stress management, but what are the key factors to kind of red flag us as individuals that we really need professional help? This is more than just advice now that we seek within our own communities or friends. But before I talk to you guys about my presentation, I know he gave a description of who I am and professionally what I do, but I feel like the personal parts of who we are impact our work more. So I wanted to give you guys just a little bit of background of why I chose this field, how I got into it. My parents are from Afghanistan, immigrated to the United States when I was 2 years old, and my entire life I wanted to be a writer, a journalist. So I went to school for English at UCI, and once I was done, 9/11 happened. And once 9/11 happened, we had an influx of widows and orphans from Afghanistan. And as they were coming into Orange County, a lot of the Afghan community, we just rolled up our sleeves, tried to get them resettled, help them out a little bit here and there, introduce them to living here in the United States. And in my process, I adopted this little family that I was helping their children register in school, learn about the vaccination process, get social services, and care for their mom. And in that process of just volunteer work, I had a shift in what I wanted to do with my life. And that's where therapy, applying for my master's and my doctorate and all of that came into place, because I saw that there was a huge need in our community. And I'm sure if you were to speak with our organizers, each of them have a story of how they came to this field. This is not an easy field to come into within our community. Mental health, therapy, getting help for your family is still a taboo in our community. So I commend each and every single one of you here that came out of your homes on a Sunday to learn about this topic and this field. It's really, really hard the way that we are raised, and it'll go into my slides, the traditional places that we as Muslims seek help. Number one, it was our parents and our elders in the community. That's where we would go when back home people had problems. You didn't go to a therapist. You didn't go to a psychologist or psychiatrist. You went to the elders. The elders would sit you down with their wisdom, with their knowledge of your family life, your marriage, your children, and give you advice. After that, we would go to the mosques. We would go to our imams. And our imams were our counselors, and they still are. They really wear that hat of being, everything for everyone in the community. And it's really nice that now they have the support of these organizations so that they can have some of the burden lifted off their shoulders. We go traditionally to friends and family. And then lastly, I have self-help. So these are kind of the methods that are accepted in our culture of how we seek help. We go to our parents, elders, mosques, imams, friends, family, and then there's a lot of self-help that's out there today, and people are trying to better themselves within themselves. The professionals that are available for help, and I just wanted to give a little bit of education because each of these people impact us in a different way. So we have physicians. As a culture, it's very normal for us to go for medical help. It's very normal for us to go and say, hey, I think I have cholesterol, I have a headache, my leg hurts, I have chest pain. The medical profession is normalized. There's no taboo with going to the doctor. The doctor is our first stop. We take our children, we take ourselves, and we seek help. After that, I have psychiatrists. Psychiatrists are people that help through medication, mental health needs. And they do offer some counseling as well, but the psychiatrist, if the problem is severe enough, the psychiatrist amongst all of these professions are the only ones that can help medicate you. Your physician and your psychiatrist. We have school counselors. So your child is having difficulty at school. You get a phone call from the principal's office. The next step is the school counselor. And through the school counselor, they come up with an education plan, an IEP. They have your son or daughter assessed at school. School advisors, teachers. School advisors would be like on college campuses. You have college counselors. And you have teachers. Teachers play a huge role in getting assistance to our kids when they need help. Then we have marriage and family therapists, which work, they have such a huge spectrum of clientele that they work with. They work on couples therapy, individuals, teenagers, substance abuse, depending on what they specialize on. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not using the clicker. I didn't know that it was up. Sorry. There we go. Then we have our social workers that work with children in cases. They do some counseling therapy as well. And then the regional centers. Regional centers are typically used for children from ages 0 to 3. You get your child assessed. And this is a lot for us to kind of grapple with as we're trying to figure out where do we go when we need help? Where do we go? Who do we call? We have referral sheets. We have agencies. We have organizations now that can guide you. But as a Muslim new immigrant family, or even somebody who's been here long enough, I still have clients that have been completely born and raised here. How to work within the system to get the help you need is a very difficult process, and it's emotional at the moment. You're going through things, and then you need to figure out where to go to get your help. So then we go into signs that you need help, and each of these are different for each individual. And what I wanted to share is, in my years of doing therapy within the Muslim community and outside the Muslim community, for our community, there's a lot of feelings that go into actually taking that step of calling somewhere and making that appointment. We struggle within our hearts, within our souls. Do we see a Muslim? Do we see a non-Muslim? What's going to happen? Our families' inside secrets are going to be out. And so these are all the thoughts and processes that we struggle with, and that's why we don't get help. That's why we live with shame. We live with the problems, the secrets, before we actually reach out and give help. So before we go into the signs of you need help, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the process of us as therapists when we see you. A lot of concerns that clients have are confidentiality. Who is this therapist going to share my information with? We are bound by law not to share your information. Not only law, but I see anybody who goes into this field that they make a commitment with their creator. You hold the secrets, you hold the struggles of people. So we are bound by law. When we go into programs and we have hours of supervision, the only person that hears the cases are your supervisors, are the people that are training you. And that's just to give you feedback. This is not the same as going and talking to your friends. This is not the same as talking to family. You have that fear of the word getting out. Any ethical, any moral, any law-abiding therapist will stick to their, their boundaries and abide by the confidentiality. If you feel at any moment that feeling of discomfort, because therapists are human beings like all of us, if you as a client ever feel uncomfortable, I would stop seeing that therapist. I would definitely address it in the session. If there's uncomfortable feelings around that, you are there to get your services met. And so if you feel any of that, you need to address it, bring it up in session. So everything you feel is intense is one sign of, okay, this is not going away. We all get angry, we all get sad, but it doesn't impair us. It doesn't stop us from living everyday life. So when your feeling is so intense that you can no longer take care of your children, that you can no longer go to work, that you can no longer do the day-to-day functions that you were doing before, that is a sign that you need to seek out professional help. Does it impair you from your responsibilities? If there are things that you could do before and be responsible for and now you can't, that is a red flag. You need to seek professional help. So another example is you've suffered trauma and you can't stop thinking about it. If we were to look at everybody's lives just in this room, somehow we have been touched by trauma. As a population that's immigrated, whether you're first, second, third generation, trauma is a part of our story, it's a part of our history. But then you watch people and they use their trauma to empower themselves and move forward and create meaningful lives for themselves, their kids, their relationships. And then there's those individuals that the trauma stops them. And when the trauma stops you and you're no longer able to move on, you need to seek professional help. Trauma is a part of our lives. It comes, it goes. We lose family members, we lose relationships, we lose jobs. There's war, there's so many things. There's poverty, financial trauma. But if it paralyzes you, that in a normal amount of time you are not able to heal, you are not able to find resources to help yourself, then that is a sign that you need professional help. Some people, when they have trauma, they completely isolate themselves. They want to stay away from everybody, and that's a sign that, okay, now I need to be able to move on, and I'm not. And the opposite happens to some individuals, where they engage. They can't be left alone for 1 second. They want everybody around them at all times. And that's okay in the beginning of trauma. In the beginning of loss, it's very healthy to be around those that make you feel better. But if you're to the point where you're clingy and you're no longer able to function independently, that is a sign that you need professional help. So you have unexplained and reoccurrent headaches, stomach aches, or rundown immune system. This is what Dr. Marwa, hinted at in her talk, that when it physically impairs you now, if your stress or your mental health physically impairs you, then you need to seek professional help. Now you have unexplained physical symptoms that are happening to you on a recurring basis. All of us get headaches, all of us have pain, all of us have joint muscle aches, but we know when we're out of it on a continuous basis. We know that, okay, something is now not doing well for us. That is also a sign and a symptom that you need to, that your stress has now manifested itself in your body. So the next sign, I'm sorry, did I go? There we go. The next sign that I talk about is when you cope with your situation through a substance. When we no longer can handle our pain, our suffering, or whatever stressors that we're going through, and it becomes kind of like a basis for your addiction. And here I have, you're going to drugs or smoking or drinking, but they could be addictions to other things that we don't think about. The internet is an addiction. Shopping can be an addiction. Food can be an addiction. So if you are now putting yourself in a state of just occupying yourself with an addiction, you need to seek professional help. And it doesn't always have to be substance. It doesn't always have to be, drugs or smoking. I had a client once, and he was addicted to pain medication. And pain medication is a huge problem that we have, especially in our teenage communities now, where they get injured, they have a sports injury for the first time, they go to the ER, they're given some, pain medication, and the feeling and the high that they get with pain drugs is so intense that they continuously injure themselves so that they can get the medications. And I remember speaking to his mom. He was a young adult, I want to say in his early 20s, and she shared with me that, his father is an addict of, alcohol. And in a lot of studies now, they're mapping out addiction. They're mapping out addiction on the family genetics and genes. And when we were studying in school and part of our SAMHSA fellowship, they would sit with teenagers as a preventative matter and do their family gene tree of addiction. And everybody would say, especially in the Muslim community, oh, we don't have addicts. But addiction is not just substance abuse. It's not only drugs, it's not only smoking. Do you have a tendency to be addicted? And you can look at what your addiction is. So those teenagers would find that, well, yeah, my mom is addicted to this, or my dad is addicted to this. And as a prevention model, we would tell them, if you're set up to have addiction in your family, then it's better you stay away. You stay away from these substances, because everybody, all the studies for alcoholism in college, everybody goes to college, there's a lot of drinking, there's a lot of partying, but only a few of them become alcoholics. And what is that factor? That certain people can get away and certain people can't. So any signs of addiction, early intervention for addiction is very, very crucial. You need to get into some kind of professional help, because addiction can really take over your life. You're getting bad feedback at work. And then people start to notice when you are working in a professional setting or even a private setting, and those around you start to notice that you're struggling, that you're disconnected from your job, you can't make the normal happy conversations than you could, your concentration, your attention, you're not meeting your deadlines, and it's consistent. So time is very important. We all go through our ups and downs of productivity, and we allow ourselves to be unproductive. But if you are in a consistent place of lack of production, then that's also a sign. I'm sorry, I have only 5 minutes. I'm going to get through all of this. You're getting bad feedback at work. You feel disconnected to previous things that really you enjoy doing. So Dr. Marwa gave us some examples, like you enjoy hiking, you enjoy walking, you enjoy being a part of a committee, you volunteer, and all of a sudden, those activities don't bring that same amount of joy. You all of a sudden don't want to go to your family gatherings. You don't enjoy seeing the people that you used to see. Those are signs that you need help. Your relationships start to suffer. So if you yourself are in a state of being that you need professional help, the easiest place to throw that is on those that are closest to you. It's easier to say that something is wrong with my husband, something is wrong with my children, something is wrong with my parents, they're making me this way, than to look in the mirror and say, you know what, I'm not feeling well myself. So we have a lot of clients that come in, they want couples therapy. I have a lot of couples that come in, they come in for couples therapy, and then we discover, oh, the wife is depressed. So this is a very prominent place that our internal distress comes out. It's in our relationships. your friends start to recognize and are telling you that they are concerned for you. So those people that are in your close circles are recognizing the changes in you. Those are signs. Sometimes friends notice patterns that we don't notice ourselves. For example, not wanting to be with them anymore, not being, laughable, not being able to conversate. People that are very close to you will pick up the signs sometimes before you do. Okay, so finding the professionals for you. Getting help in mental health services is expensive. And it's wonderful that we have organizations like Access, because Access offers this service to our community for free. The first place I would tell clients to look is their insurance. Look at what kind of mental health services your insurance offers. Everybody has a card. You look on there, whether you're insured through the state, the county, or privately. I would say use that method first. Mental health services, if you really want to get long-term care, can become expensive. If it's for your son or daughter, you go to their school. Every parent has a right to free services from their child's school. Even if your child doesn't attend a public school, you have rights to get them fully assessed. And a lot of our parents don't know that. They have their kids in private Islamic school, something comes up, something is wrong. You have a right to walk into your local public school and say, I want a full assessment of my child. And they are mandated by law to give you that assessment. Community centers like Access, private practice. Alhamdulillah, we have a lot of Muslim therapists now. And I know that Waleed's going to publish our referral list, but we have a lot of Muslim therapists in your community. Call around and ask family and friends who they've used. Word of mouth is very, very important. Thoughts that may be going through your head when you're ready to go in for therapy: shame, embarrassment, I don't need this is too personal, what am I going to say, what am I not going to say? These are the voices in your head, and I recommend that you take these to your first session. You express these concerns and see what the feedback is from your therapist, and based on that, you will know if you've made that connection with your therapist. You need to go into therapy with honesty, openness to express your concerns, and assess your connection with a therapist. Therapists are people. You need to have a connection with them. If you do not, the process will not be successful. So I don't think I have time to go through the process of therapy, but it includes preparing yourself for the work. Your work. The work of therapy is your work. It is not the work of your therapist. Your therapist is there to guide you, coach you, so that you can discover what's best for you. But you have to understand, whatever you put time and effort into, you will gain rewards from. And then I'm going to get to the last part because I'm short on time. Keep in mind, therapy is a process. Therapy is not a quick fix. Therapy is not going to repair years of a problem at the end. Most of our community members go to seek therapy when they're at the end of their problem. My biggest advice would be seek it in the beginning, because it makes such an impact when you go in as an early intervention rather than waiting late. Therapy is healing and helpful. Therapy is not embarrassing or shameful. Therapy needs to be approached with an open mind and open heart. Integrating what you believe in will help your process. I would find a therapist that matches your personal belief system. Doesn't have to be a Muslim. I've seen many Christians in therapy who asked me, can I bring my Bible in therapy? And if your therapist is open to be there for you, they will feel comfortable meeting your needs. Last thoughts are, you get out of therapy what you put into therapy. It is your journey, not the therapist's journey. You improve areas of your life that you put most of your time, most of your effort, and most of your energy. So if you invest in yourselves and your families and your relationships, you will get out of therapy what you're in there to get. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mitra.